Alright guys, I've had the NSX. Let's drive here. I like driving reviews rather than talking. I've had this NSX. It's an 05 in Long Beach Blue for a little over 3 years. Memorial Day was 3 years. And before that I had a black 95, black and tan 95 Targa NSX for 4 years. So what I'll do is I'll give you an overview actually of 7 years of NSX ownership. Alright, so keep in mind, it was the original NSX here in the United States. The model years were 1991, which were coupes, 91 to 94, 95 to 2005 were pretty much Targas. This is the last year they made it, the 2005. And the windows are up because of the wind buffeting. It's really windy even driving. We're driving 20 miles an hour here on the side street. If we were on the main road driving 40, it's really windy. We probably could barely talk, like I was talking to you before. On the highway, it's really windy and you have to yell to your passenger. So if you like convertibles or Targas, this car was really designed in the late 80s, so wind buffeting maybe wasn't a thing yet. So in this review, guys, I'll tell you every little thing about the NSX. I have the air conditioning off now and it's a hot day because the air conditioning would make too much noise, but it's ice cold air for a car that's 14 years old. So again, I've had NSXs straight since 2012. I'll tell you what I compared them against when I bought these, what I think I compares about them now. We'll go over maintenance costs, reliability, what they cost to insure, whether you should get one. If you do get one, what's the ones to get, what pitfalls to look out for. So we'll do everything in this 3-year ownership review. All right, let's see if this road is any smoother, but it probably isn't. So I've had this car, I bought this particular car Memorial Day weekend 2016. Now the first video I ever did on the YouTube channel, which was about that time, which was, I actually had 2 NSXs at once, and then I decided to start a YouTube channel. I still had my 1995 NSX that I bought used in 2012. So the first video I ever did was when I was on the way to sell that black car, and the video is called Why I Am Selling My NSX. So if you want to look at that, feel free to do so. So this particular car that we're driving, the Long Beach Blue car 05, I found in Southern California. It had about 30,000 miles on it. I had my black and tan NSX since 2012. I had it for 4 years, put a ton of miles on that car. It had 70-something thousand miles, and I said the only thing that would make me ever sell that car, because it was so reliable, so good, such a joy to drive, and you know, back then they were cheap. Even when I bought this car, they were cheap. And I said the only thing that would ever make me sell is if I found a Long Beach Blue, which was only made in 02 to 05, and they only made 88 in this color. So I said if one of those ever comes up, I would buy that and then sell my car. And sure enough, right after I bought the M2 in 2016, one did come up. And it was 3,000 miles away from my house. I live in Bergen County, New Jersey, and it couldn't be further away, but it was highly maintained. The last owner had it forever. He retired young in his 40s from selling his company. So what he did was, this car got everything it needed and then some. The maintenance records on the car were unbelievable. He kind of like brought it to the Acura dealer every year, every time it was due an oil change, and said, give it whatever it needs. So it got, you know, fluids flushed, it got timing belt, it got brakes, tires, everything. So this car was really turnkey. So I didn't want to, I loved my black and tan NSX so much that I did not want to sell it until I knew this car was as advertised. So I did a PPI. I should always deal with PPI on these cars. In Southern California, passed with flying colors. I shipped the car home. I wanted to see it. I bought it, obviously. Shipped the car home. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. Let's accelerate here. Now my car is stock except for an aftermarket exhaust. And the exhaust is called a Pride V2, I believe. And I had this on my first NSX, and I liked it so much that I kept it for this car. And we'll turn here. We'll slow down because even with the windows up, it's kind of windy. So once I got this car to my house and knew that it was as advertised, even though it should be because I already paid for it and I did a PPI, then I put my black NSX for sale. So I actually had 2 NSXs for like a month, and then I made that video about my black NSX as I was delivering to the new owner who still has the car and who's subscribed to my YouTube channel actually. And it's been super reliable for them, super reliable for me as well, in this car as well. So the first thing I would tell you about the NSX is they're really reliable if you buy a good one. So you want to buy one that's had a ton of maintenance records, that always has given what it needs. Basically, in the 3 years that I've owned this car, I've basically just done routine service, oil changes, etc. New set of tires, which it needed when I bought the car. The tires had a ton of tread. I actually had 2 sets of wheels. I had Comtech wheels and tires, which I sold, and then the original wheels, thank God, because original wheels are very expensive, so you definitely want to buy a car with original wheels. They were like $3,000 for a set, and I think they're even more now. So the original set had basically tires with no miles on them, but they were, about, how old were they? Probably 10 years old. So I got a new set of tires. So I factored that into the price. The seller was really cool about that and discounted the price so I can get new tires. And so basically I've done basic maintenance. This was the only 05 that I saw that had a timing belt already done. So the timing belt you do, depending who you talk to, every 7 to 10 years, and it's an interference engine, so you definitely want to do the timing belt. The timing belt goes, and you can take your engine out with it. And another reason, I bought this car because it was Long Beach Blue, stick shift, but another reason I wanted to buy this particular gentleman's car was he already had the timing belt done. He did it early, so I'm good for the next couple years until I need a timing belt. Now, when I bought my 1995 NSX back in 2012, so the car was already, 17 years old? There were people that had the original timing belts for 17 years, even though you're supposed to change them 7 to 10 years. A car like this, you really want to buy from somebody who has the money to maintain it. A lot of these cars were cheap for many years. NSXs were $25,000, early ones, so people bought them, did kind of all kinds of mods to them, and never did any maintenance. Then these cars were sold, and you see a lot of people sink so much money into them. If you buy a highly maintained car, these cars are so good, you shouldn't have to maintain, put a lot of money into them. So the NSX really has the perfect formula for the enthusiast. Mid-engine, rear drive, and they're almost all stick shifts. Very few automatics were made. And the automatics, you don't get the upgraded 3.2 liter with the 290 horsepower. You get the base 3 liter with the 270 from the NA1 NSXs. So NA1 NSXs are model year 1991 to 1996. 91 and 94 coupes, no power steering. 95 and 96 are Targas with power steering. Now, a lot of people don't like the Targas because that's the heaviest car, because it's got the smallest motor and worst power to rate ratio. It's the heaviest car and technically the slowest NSX. But I started my search there. So if you're going to start with an NSX, I would say to get an NA1 car because it's cheaper, about 15 grand cheaper than an NA2 car. NA2 car's got a 6-speed manual instead of a 5-speed. They're 290 horsepower. And you can feel the difference in acceleration, but it's a $15,000 difference. And here in the United States, it was model years 1997 to 2005. Now, they were a slight facelift in 97, but still had the pop-up headlights. And in 2002, they went to the standard headlights, no more pop-ups anymore. And so 02 to 05s looked the same, and they had some revised body panels as well. Front and rear bumpers. It's a nice Bentley. So I wouldn't sweat it. If it's your first NSX, save the 15 grand, get the other car. The NA1 NSX is about the same 0 to 60 time as an S2000. It's about 5.7 seconds on a good day. This is closer to 5.0, probably 5 to 5.2. I know Car and Driver did a test, and I think they got in the high 4s, but they must have really stomped on the clutch. I wouldn't count on getting that. Let's do a little acceleration. So now what's better than a mid-engine car that accelerates to 8,000 RPM? Normally aspirated motor, stick shift. Now I always bought something instead of the NSX. I bought my first NSX in 2012, but every time I was looking for a car, I wanted a mid-engine stick shift rear drive, and I always bought something else. So I bought a Lotus Exige, and I also bought a Cayman S before I bought my first NSX. And it was a real close toss-up. I remember the Exige is like, it's in its own group, so I don't know, it's a totally different car. But, so I wouldn't really put that in this comparison. But the Cayman S to me and the NSX were close, and I was going back and forth on both. And the reason I chose the Cayman S at the time is I wanted to do track days, which I did, autocross. I was doing a lot of autocross, and I just thought that would be a car I could drive every day. I could even drive it in the winter with winter tires, and the NSX was more like of a special occasion car. But, oh good, they paved this road. This is like the bumpiest road, and they paved it. And is that right? Yes. We're gonna do all our reviews on this road now. So, I always bought something else. So the Cayman S is really foolproof. I mean, obviously it's not as reliable. There's bigger repairs than the NSX. I think the NSX is super reliable, but the Cayman S can make anybody look good. It's so well engineered from Porsche. It's a newer car. You could throw that into a corner at any speed and not worry about it. Now this car, if you throw it in a corner too quick, it will understeer, and that understeer could turn into a snap oversteer. So be careful, especially when it's raining out. A lot of people crash their NSXs in the rain, or they just, you know, it gives you plenty of hints when it's understeer. So to get that snap oversteer is really on you. There's so much understeer dialed in here to make you aware that there really should be no instance where you have that snap oversteer, because it's not a powerful car. Like, it's not 400 horsepower Mustang or Camaro where you give it too much gas and you're gonna get loose. It's not gonna happen. Gas mileage is really good on this car. Who cares about gas mileage? But unlike my other cars, like the McLaren that suck gas, or my V8 M3 when I had it, you could drive this car all day and the gas needle barely moves. Maybe it'll move one click. So you can get really good gas mileage, probably mid to high 20s on the highway, and you probably average in the 20s, low 20s with this car, even driving it aggressively, even shifting at 8,000 RPM. Maintenance, again, timing belt 7 to 10 years, depending who you speak to. Keep up with oil changes. There are some other issues, like with the air conditioning not working right, being stuck on high. Those you can go to NSX Prime. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that. My cars had none of those issues. So both of my cars I bought from people who were very wealthy and could give them whatever they want, and neither one of my cars, 7 years, tens of thousands of miles, and zero problems. I've only done basic maintenance on either car. Now these cars are very, very low to the ground, so you gotta be really careful. It's very easy to scrape getting into your driveway, a parking lot, a gas station, parking up by curbs. Really want to be careful with that. Obviously, they're older cars. There's no backup camera. This back is a lot longer than you think it is, especially since it's a mid-engine car. It handles really, really well. Not as good as, say, a modern car. Not as fast as a modern car, but plenty fast enough. Clutches can be very expensive, especially on NA2 cars. NA2 cars have the 3.2 liter motor, 290 horsepower, 6-speed manual, 97 to 05. The clutches are way more expensive, so be careful with the clutches. That's probably a big wear and tear item that can be very expensive. My car's still on the original clutch, and we just hit 40,000 miles. I bought this car with about 30,000 miles, and my other NSX I sold with like 70, 75,000 miles. Now this car gets a lot of attention, especially in this color blue, but it gets all the right attention. It is very, it's all positive. I've never got any negative attention. One of my knocks on this car, I would say, is it's too quiet from the factory. It was more of a fast sports car, exotic car, if you will, but also it had a lot of luxury in it, especially for the time. So it is very quiet. So the first thing I did with my other car was put an exhaust on it. And then when I bought this car, I liked the sound of the exhaust so much, I took it off my 95 and put it on this car, and it fits with an adapter. All right, a little highway acceleration for you. The windows up, and it's really windy on the highway. Now we'll take some turns at this exit ramp. I think it's easy to heel toe downshift. Being mid-engine, it really handles the curves. Another downshift. Maintenance, I am particular who works on this car just because it's an exotic car, it's low to the ground. I don't trust people putting on lifts. Unfortunately, my great mechanic just retired, but you can take it to the Acura dealer. I don't know how many people are used to working on an original NSX. Resale value. These cars have doubled in the last couple years. My black car went way up in value. This car in the 3 years I've owned it has doubled in value. So I still think there's room here, especially if you get, obviously get a stick shift car. Blue does the best, I think, for resale value. There's 3 different blues. There are 2 other blues that went from 97 to 99. I'm sorry, to 2001. And then this Long Beach blue, if you like this color, they only made 88, unfortunately. And this went from 2002 to 2005. Originally, I wanted a red and tan NSX. Red's the most popular color. Black is the more popular interior than tan. So I like contrast. I wanted this blue with a black interior. My black and tan look great. There's so many black on blacks. And when I got my black one, I wanted red, and I found this black one, and it was perfect. And the only thing wrong with it is that it was red. I'm sorry, black instead of red. But you know what? I bought it on condition, not on color. And then when I had it, I was really glad that I had it, because it was, you go to a car show, there's a sea of red NSXs if it's an NSX show. There's very few black ones, especially that's not a good spot to park. Somebody's parked right in the middle of the road. Okay. People see a garage sale, they just stop around a blind curve. So once I had the black one, I was glad I had it, because something different. Every NSX is red. But if you like red, get it. So I think the market, as far as going up in value, buy the best car you can afford. I think the NE2s have the best chance of going up in value. There's a lot of 91 NSXs. I think they made 8,900 total here in the United States, and like 5,000 of them, 5,600 are 91s. So you're most likely to see a 91 for sale. So, you know, that could be what you wind up getting, and that's a great first NSX. Remember, it'll be a coupe, and it won't have power steering, but it'll be a great car nonetheless. I'm just watching the same guy that was blocking the road is now behind me. But I highly recommend the NSX. I honestly would have bought this car over the Cayman S and the Exige S. So if I had to do this all over again, I would have bought the NSX years ago, even before 2012. And I think people that own NSXs wind up owning two, which I never believed, and I had two for a short time. And then and this car is so reliable, even though the NSXs are 20-something years old now. They you don't have to worry about rod bearings like a BMW, IMS like a Porsche. These cars aren't going to implode. As long as you change the timing belt and keep up with the maintenance, you'll be fine. And I mean, really, this has Honda maintenance. And that's another question. People always say Honda NSX. Well, in North America, it was only Acura NSX, because Acura only exists in North America. So the rest of the world, this car is a Honda NSX. I know we have a lot of international viewers. Tunnel, there you go. Here's another rev we'll do in the tunnel. Oh yeah. So there's a lot of misinformation. You'll see them in videos in the United States where they call it a Honda NSX or tell you there's a Honda NSX and an Acura NSX, and there isn't. In North America, it's an Acura NSX. The rest of the world, it's a Honda NSX. So you got the right car when you park it somewhere, even if it's in your driveway, and you always look back at it. So wherever I go, I always look back at the car. I always think it's a gorgeous car. I'm going to have the NSX forever. This is a car that I will never, ever sell. All right, so let me tell you some of the things I like about this car and what I don't like. Again, if I had known how good the NSX was, I would have pushed off the purchase of the Cayman S and the Lotus Exige S, and I would have bought one of these cars way before 2012. What I like is steering feel. It's got great steering feel. You could really place the car. It's very accurate. The handling is great because it's mid-engine. Very easy to shift. Powerful enough. It feels faster probably than it is. My gripes with the car may be hard to... well, they're too quiet, first of all, so I think you definitely need an aftermarket exhaust. The brakes aren't great. The brakes were good for the 1990s, and this is a 2005. Now, again, the car came out in 91, but the brakes leave something to be desired. So if you were going to do a track day, which I wouldn't because this is a collectible car, or an autocross, your brakes will probably not be very good. So a real good upgrade if you're going to drive aggressively, drive in the mountains, drive in the hills where you need brakes, downshift, and accelerate. Going up a hill, but we still got plenty of power. I would upgrade the brakes. Get the car as original as you can. If any places things have been replaced, like the exhaust, I kept the stock exhaust for resale value because you're going to need it. As these cars become more collectible, you'll need all the stock parts. Best way to search for one, I would do NSX Prime. You could do the usual cars.com, Auto Trader, but I would NSX Prime are owned by enthusiasts. They'll probably even know the history of the car with the VIN number, and I think you'll get a good car most likely going to that site. I think the cheapest NSX is now 91s at the time of this filming, which is June 2019. The cheapest 91s are probably about 50 or close to it. If it's cheaper than that, you should wonder why. And then the most expensive cars like the 05s are about 120, and that's kind of like the gamut of it. Just buy a highly maintained car. Mileage will matter for resale value, but I would get more miles highly maintained than a low mileage car that was sitting. And that's our video, guys. I got to get back before this thunderstorm hits. So thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Leave your thoughts below on the video. Did I miss anything? Any questions on the NSX? And I will see you next time.